Good evening. Impromptu, I know. And you probably did not get a notification because, like I said, this was impromptu and I didn't get a chance to send one. So let me adjust this a bit. Okay. So I'm gonna give you a few minutes to come on and sign on. Let me know where you're signaling from. You know the drill. And welcome back to the channel. Those of you that have been tracking with me for a long time. I want to talk about a few things tonight. Hi, Beverly. How are you? New York in the house. How you doing? I hope you're doing okay. I see the conditions under which you guys are living there in New York, and it's really something. Oh, um, yeah, it's really sad. I'm good. I'm doing fine. Thank you. It's Happy New Year, by the way. I thought to myself, golly, they might think I just fell off the map or something. No, I'm still here. It's just that it was very, very busy. And this was very impromptu. I was going to come on last night, and then I thought, well, they're kind of used to me coming on around the same time when I do come on. And it was like 30 minutes later. So I thought, nah, I'll just wait till tomorrow. And then I almost forgot again. So it's been busy. I've had a very busy day. My phone was ringing before I even got out of my bed, and it was just that kind of a day. So anyway, I am glad that you are here. Happy New Year to you. I hope you're staying safe under the conditions that you are currently having to tolerate. Um, so if you were looking at the title of this live stream, I wanted to talk about a few things. One of them was the threat of sleeper cells in our country. Um, Probably about in 2010, 2009 or 2010, I started talking to my husband about the possibility and the very real threat of sleeper cells being in our country. How you doing there? Hello, hello. Water, water, the possibilities. Okay, that's a welcome to the channel. I don't remember ever seeing you on here. So thank you for tuning in, and I hope you will share the channel when we're done discussing some of these things tonight. Today, um, I came into some information about the FBI director, I think he's director, Christopher Wray, who has testified under oath several times to Congress about what was going on in our country. Now, he put out a statement saying that there are sleeper cells, hostile sleeper cells in our country, that the FBI had given all this information to the Biden administration and they chose not to do anything about it. Now, here's the problem. Let me tell you the problem I'm having with that. First of all, I knew 10 years ago that this was going on. Secondly, the man has lied under oath several times to Congress that nothing was going on, he wasn't aware of anything, that everything was fine, and now now all of a sudden he has an epiphany and wants to say, well, yeah, there's a real credible threat in our country, and we have hundreds of sleeper cells that are, waiting for their orders to do whatever. Well, people like me and others that have channels like this have been saying this for a long time, a long time. that was the whole purpose of a lot of our focus being on preparedness and stuff like that, right? Because I said there might come a time, there could be a week, could be a day, could be a few days, where it is not safe to go out of your house if you don't have to. So you have to make sure that you have what you need on hand. Okay, that's a real thing, folks. Now, I know some people would say, well, the people in California, they probably were prepared too, and everything they had got burned up and this and this. Okay, that is true. And the government ain't helping them either. $700 or, somewhere around that figure, the same thing they did in Tennessee and all around that area with the flooding, because all of your tax dollars went to Ukraine. It went to help them. Okay, it ain't too much coming to help you. I'm talking about billions of dollars went overseas when we had veterans sleeping on the street. Okay, that's the kind of administration we've been under for the last 4 years. So anyhow, he wants to come out and suddenly have an attack of conscience and talk about how, there's a real credible threat here. They can hit our infrastructure. We're not prepared to deal with it. And the Biden administration chose not to do anything about it. Now, why now? Why now? Okay, so I pay attention to things like that. And my thought is this. I have a couple of thoughts, and a couple of them might not be so good, so I might not share that with you. I'd be in trouble with God. But I have a couple more thoughts that I can share with you. And one is this. Joseph Robinette Biden has issued over 8,000 with a TH pardons, starting with his son, where it went all the way back to 2014 or wherever, right around the time he started dealing with Burisma and taking in all these kickbacks and all that. So he's doing an unconditional pardon all the way back to the time where his son got involved in illegal money laundering and all this kind of stuff, right? My guess is, now I don't know, I'm just saying, it's just a thought. Perhaps Christopher Wray didn't receive a pardon. And he wants to try to cover his butt and make it seem like I was trying to do the right thing, but they just wouldn't listen to me. See, that doesn't explain why you lied under oath so many times about what was going on with the FBI. So many times where you were acting like you had the back of the American people. So many times where you act like the FBI agents were all above board and everything that they were doing. You couldn't talk about it because there was this investigation. This stuff goes all the way back to Comey, okay? When he talked about Hillary Clinton having broken the law openly, willfully, and she still didn't go to prison for it. But then these same people will get on the national mic and say, no one is above the law. Well, apparently no one outside of their club is above the law. You know what I mean? And if they are above the law because they're law-abiding citizens, they'll create a law and accuse you of breaking it just so they can say you're not above the law, because they have a bloodlust and they're looking for somebody to prosecute and persecute. Anyhow, I have a problem with this whole thing of him coming out now talking about these sleeper cells when I mentioned this to my husband back in 2010. Back in 2010, when Barack Obama came into office in 2008, I knew then, and for those of you who didn't know or who had a different idea, I did not vote for Barack Obama either time that he ran, because I could see right through him. I could see through him. He was a smooth talker. Listen, when you come up in the hood, smooth talking. All right. He was eloquent of speech. These are the kinds of things that the Bible tells you to look out for, right? So seeing as I am a student of the word, I knew what the scripture said about smooth talkers and all that. Yeah, he was one of them. And a lot of those sleeper cells came in under his watch with his permission. And this administration has done even worse with the whole open borders thing. They didn't care who was coming in. They didn't care how many were coming in. Now, and yet they live in gated communities. They have private security and all that. but they want to put you in jail if you try to defend yourself against someone who's trying to do you or your family any harm. Are you getting it yet? That the government does not care about you. Okay. Now, see, a couple of years back, I know people thought, man, she is just way over the top because I said, they want you dead. They don't care whether you're dead or alive. They don't care. And now I think people are really starting to see this, especially with the fires and the floods and all this and the lack of support from the government. I mean, the absolute lack of support, and then telling FEMA and Red Cross and different ones like that not to go into certain areas if they were supporters of a certain candidate. What kind of heinous stuff is that? That is hatred on a whole different level. Okay, that's otherworldly hatred. So, hey Audrey, hello Helen, how are you? So I just want you, I want you to pay attention. I really want you to pay attention to what's going on. Now, you might say, well, there's a whole lot going on. There is a whole lot going on. So you're going to kind of have to keep your head on the swivel. Okay. I know there's a whole lot going on. But here's the thing, you have to know what to pay attention to and also recognize other things as lies and distractions. Okay. Because when they kick up a fire over here, it's because something's going on over here that they don't want you to look at. There's changes being made over here that they don't want you to see. So they'll kick up some dust over here because people are quick to go, ooh, what's that? Oh, what's that? You know what I mean? So, so I'm just saying, it's a trick. It's a trick. It's called diversion. But anyhow, I just want you to ask yourself, why would this man come out now and suddenly have an attack of conscience? Because even if he was being blackmailed or threatened or his job being threatened, that he would be fired, he was close to retirement, whoever, whatever, okay, the same people that threaten him could hurt him when he comes out of retirement. So I don't get this whole attack of conscience thing. You know, there's that. Then there's this whole thing of all the livestock. Why is it that all of a sudden all of our food is bad? All of it's bad. It all has to come out of your cabinet. It all has to come out of your refrigerator. You can't have any more animals because they all have diseases. Listen, let me roll your mind back to about 3 or 4 years ago when the thing with the food really kicked off, when they opened up the borders and suddenly, like magic, there was no baby formula. Do you remember? You remember? Because let me tell you something. I got a long memory, honey. I don't forget things like that. I don't have babies, and that affected me. Okay, because I told you then, you got to be a special kind of evil to take food out of a baby's mouth. To give it to someone who broke the law when they came into the country. What is that? So this is why I don't have a problem with people who feel like the country that they live in should come first. It's kind of like the house you live in, the family you belong to, whatever, the home that you stay in. You should have food in your refrigerator before you trying to put food in somebody else's, because guess what? You got to eat. You know what I mean? And so this whole upside down thing, I remember telling my husband everything is flipped. And about, gosh, I guess 15 years ago, I said, man, hell have belched up something and something just turned upside down. And it's been like that ever since. I sensed it. You could almost smell it. But anyway, I'm just saying. Bird flu, and they keep killing off the animals. They keep killing off the livestock. They blaming the cows for gas emissions and all this carbon emissions and global warming, and it's one thing after another. And I saw a graph today showing that because of ice tests that they've done in the Arctic and in these other places where they can go back thousands upon thousands of years and check the core, ice core and all that the planet is not warming up. It's getting cooler. Okay. I'm just saying, Listen, y'all. Okay. So the bird, they killing off the chickens. And people are wondering why in some places a dozen eggs might cost you $8. Well, because there's a shortage. Why? Because there's no laying hens. Why? Because they're killing them off. They keep killing them. They've been killing them for 3 years, 4 years now, killing off livestock, killing off the cows. Does anybody remember in Texas a couple of years back? All of these cows just turned up dead. They were in a certain region in Texas, and I can't remember exactly where that was, but I'm talking about it was a graveyard full of cows. They were just dead, dead. And I'm thinking that had to be sabotage. They either somebody put something in the water that they were drinking or put something in the feed that they were given because it killed off a massive amount of cows and they were all in one area of Texas, all in one area. How did that happen when it didn't happen anywhere else in the country? How did that happen? It had to be the food, some kind of pesticide, something killed those cows. And then next thing you know, the price of beef starts skyrocketing, right? Y'all remember that? Craziness, I'm telling you. Now they're saying something's going on with the pigs, with pork. Some of you don't eat pork, whatever, God bless you, I don't care. I I eat anything that's available to me if it's received with thanksgiving and prayer. That's my conviction about that. But the chickens, the cows, the pigs, and then and we already know the oceans are polluted, so the fish already sucks. But so there's that because of all the oil that they've dumped into the oceans. Excessive food recalls. Why is it? Listen, I'd like to know. Somebody explain to me how is it that we're having all of these food recalls and taxpayers are paying the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, who are supposed to be doing tests. Why is it that the stuff hits the market and then you got to recall it? Ain't somebody testing this stuff before it hits the market? What is that about? What is going on? And why is it that all of these other countries are stocking up with food and gold and silver and stuff like this, but you don't hear anything coming from our government admonishing people here to prepare for a harsh winter? Or you don't hear anything like that. Why is that? Why do you think that is? I tell you, because they don't care about you. That's why. So, I guess this is a good time for you to take stock of what you have. And that's everything from relationships to blankets. Okay. What do you have? And how prepared are you? And you know what? And I'll tell you what really just ticks me right off is when I hear Christian people, church folk, act like this doesn't apply to them. Okay. Can I just tell you, I don't know where you got that stupid anointing from, okay, but put it back because it ain't working for you. I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to need to eat. I don't care what's going on in the world. You're going to need to eat. And if you think sitting on your front step waiting for a raven to bring you some food is a good idea, I wouldn't advise it. All right. You better get down to the Wawa or whatever it is you have in your area and get what you need. I'm just saying. Look at the storms that are going on in different places. Look at the fires. Look at all the stuff going on. And let me say something about that. The governor of California is already talking about, California 2.0 right now. You guys need to understand something. You need to Google Agenda 2030. Okay, you just need to Google it and see what it is they were planning to do, because this is a whole global thing, right? Europe is fixing to run out of heat. They're in trouble over there. They are in deep doo-doo, okay? They are in trouble over there. There were people last year and year before last that were literally freezing to death because the cost of heating their apartment, what they call them flats over there, but the cost of heating them was so ridiculously expensive, especially for pensioners, people that were on retirement and all that. They call it pensioners over there. Had to choose between going to the food bank and buying food or heating their home. And they couldn't do both. So they're all bundled up with several layers of clothes. And sometimes they would go over to a rec center, or, well, I don't think they call it, I think they call it an activity center or something like that, to get warm. And then they would go back home and eat. And they can't even, and listen, they can't afford to turn the stove on to cook. So they'd have to go somewhere else that may be serving food. And they were running out. The last reports I saw about that is they were running out because people weren't donating to the food banks and stuff like they used to, right? Even their big box stores, the grocery stores and stuff that used to send a lot of food to the food banks weren't doing it because the cost of food was so expensive. They couldn't afford to do it. They didn't have enough. So you could see it now, even here. You go to Walmart or Aldi's or some of these other places where they're fronting all this stuff. They're pulling all this merchandise to the front of the shelving to give the appearance that there's a lot of stuff there, but there's nothing behind it. It might be 2 rows deep and that's it. It doesn't go all the way to the back of the shelf because it's just not there. Now, I told you guys a few years back when everybody was locked in, I'm sitting back thinking about this and I'm saying, when we went through the first 2 weeks, okay, that's not terrible. You can rebound from that. But then when they wanted another 15 days, now we're into over a month. And I'm thinking, this ain't good because you can't have warehouses shut down, harvesting shut down, all this stuff shut down in the whole world. And things are just keep on ticking like it's normal. Ain't going to happen, right? So I was telling people, listen, if we missed the harvest season, which we did, nothing got harvested out of the field. It either stayed in the field and died or sat in the warehouse and rotted or sat out in the Pacific on shipping containers and went moldy. Okay, that's what happened when the whole world was shut down. Meanwhile, over there in China, they were literally welding people into their homes and they were killing themselves, jumping out of the windows and because they were going to starve them to death. Acting like this whole jab thing was such a big deal that it was terrible. Anyhow, but I said then when they did that whatever was in the warehouses that survived is all there was going to be until the next growing season. There was going to be a shortage. Now, what's hilarious to me is that a lot of times people are so emotionally tender, which I am not. Okay. If you've been listening to me for any amount of time, well, people are so emotionally tender till they just can't get it around their head that their government would literally be trying to commit genocide against it. They just can't get it. There's no way. There's no way. I have talked to y'all about the food. I have talked to you about the medicine. The last time I came on here, I think it was, I told y'all about how they had me on these different medications for all these years. And then one day I'm thinking, wait a minute, why am I on medication if nothing's wrong with me? That's what they told me when I left the hospital. Everything was fine, hunky dory. Then why am I on 7 medications? And why did it take me 5 years, 6 years to have this epiphany of like, wait a second. So everything has been captured. I would say captured by the devil. Okay. Our food has been hijacked. Our medicine has been hijacked. We got chemtrails. Our air has been hijacked. Our water is contaminated with all of these. Y'all remember the trains? Y'all remember the trains spilling all this stuff into the rivers? Wait a minute. I want to know who's running the planet. Who's in charge? I'd like to know what is the government overseeing that there are so many catastrophes that can actually destroy a person's life. I'd like to know who's doing something about that. Who's looking at this stuff? Who? Where's the FDA? Where is the Food and Drug Administration? Where are they? Oh, I know. Wait a minute. What's that I hear? Ching ching. I hear the sound of money. I hear people getting paid to look the other way. I hear people getting kickbacks. I hear that the pharmaceutical companies are actually the ones going into these medical schools teaching the students about these new drugs. They don't teach them about how to get people off the drugs. And I'm not saying that all medicine is bad. Please don't hear what I didn't say. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is there is an over prescribing of medication. People are being prescribed medicine that don't need medicine. They need to just change their diet. They need to get out into the sun more. They need to exercise a little bit. They need to do stretching exercises or chair aerobics or whatever you call it. But they don't need a pill. Okay? A lot of things that people are getting medicated for is literally a food allergy, right? It's something that their body cannot tolerate and it is making them sick. And it's been making them sick for a long time, but they're not making the association between the sickness and the food that they're eating. Over processed food. People have a problem with RFK wanting to deal with the Food and Drug Administration. He's been saying forever they are poisoning our food. They're allowing our food to be poisoned because they're getting kickbacks. These people are sitting on each other's boards, right? Getting paid. They don't care. They don't care about you. I keep telling you that. Listen. I'm gonna keep telling you that until you get it through your head that you are not loved by this government. I'm just telling you, you're not. And the government is not one person. It's all these different entities that have a hand in destroying this country. And not just this country, but then you got the globalist agenda that's going on around the world. And I told y'all years ago, I said, there's one playbook. They're all playing from it. They're just on different pages. The different countries are on different pages in the same playbook. All right. This is why I try to keep up with what's going on in other countries because I know it's one book. It's one book. And I want to see what are they doing over here because that's what they're going to try to do here if somebody doesn't try to stop them. If there's not some kind of law passed, no, you won't do that here. You know, because thank God for the sovereignty of states, right? That do not want to be ruled or governed by the government. They feel like it's the people that are in charge of the states, not the government, right? And that's the Constitution. That's the way it's supposed to be. But you got all these people, I call them, never mind. See, that's one of them things I anyway. Let me just say this. You got people that need a lot of help. They just, I don't know what's wrong with them. I don't know. They can't think right or something. There's a word for that. But anyway, they don't think right. Something wrong with them, okay? And I'm telling you, they just cannot, they can't handle the truth. I mean, listen, I ain't trying to give you some movie phrase, all right? They really, literally can't handle the truth. They would rather ignore it and act like nothing's wrong or, you know, they don't want to hear it or they'll cut you off or whatever all else because they just can't. It throws them into some kind of emotional whirlwind or tailspin or something where they just can't deal with it. So there are some people that you'll be able to talk to, and there's some people that you just look at them and go, you can't talk to them because they might just lose their minds if you tell them what's really going on, right? But as for you, now, if you thought I was real crazy, you wouldn't keep coming back to my channel. So thank you for being here. And if I am real crazy, you must be kind of crazy too, because you keep coming back to my channel. But anyway, here's the thing. On my other channel, the Christopat, y'all remember that one? Because some of y'all subscribed to that channel, which I have not posted over there in 2 years because there's a lot of stuff over there about travel and all that. But I've been trying to talk to people, not so much anymore because some people want to hear it and some people don't. But I think the issue and the topic of preparedness is very important. It is not fear mongering. It is not. Okay. So let me just say something about people that have prepped. Those that experienced the rejection of the government when they needed help, when those floods went through the South, like they did a couple of weeks, a month or so ago, the only people that came to help them were preppers. The only people that was able to help them were people who had extra. So you're not doing it just for you. You're doing it to help other people. You understand what I'm saying? Some people, it's just amazing to me that some people don't even think it's important. I'm sitting here looking at what's happening with the food supply, and there are people who just don't think it's important enough. They're focused on other stuff. They're focused on, I don't know, getting their nails done or whatever it is. I don't know. But and I'm not saying don't take care of you, and I'm not saying don't do all the fluffy stuff that, people like to do. You gotta eat. You got to eat, okay? And when you're prepping, you have to rotate your stock. You have to check your water. There are things that you have to do. Um, I tell you, my husband and I, we try. We try to talk to people. I'm not trying to scare anybody. I don't want you to be scared because if you get scared, then you'll get all paralyzed in your fear and you can't do nothing, right? Well, what good is that? I ain't trying to scare you. I want you to be aware of what is going on and don't stick your head in the sand. You need to take a step back and say, okay, what's the worst case scenario? What do I need to do if I can't leave, right? Let's just look at it like this. Ask yourself, if there's some kind of weird something that happens in my city or in my town, and I can't leave because it's too dangerous and the authorities have said there's a curfew, stay off the streets, blah blah blah, because they are doing that in California. Okay, there is almost like martial law there because they got a curfew. They got a curfew 6 to 6, 6 in the morning till 6 in the evening. It's curfew. Stay off the streets. Okay, and they have people looting and beating up people and robbing them and taking this. It's great. People are just demented. But let's just talk about you for a minute. What happens if something like that happens in your area, or not even something like that? Just something, some kind of a, I don't know, some kind of a gas thing, some air or something, whatever. And they say you have to stay in your home. How prepared are you? How long can you stay in your home and sustain yourself? This is where we're at, folks. I mean, this is a real thing. This is a real thing. And when you have the FBI director going on record saying that we got some dangerous bad actors in our country to the tune of something like 40,000 sleeper cells, I'm not surprised. They didn't just come in under this administration. I mean, they've been doing that for a while, but they really were coming in under Barack Obama. Okay. And so I'm just going to put it out there for those of you who thought he was going to be a magic Negro and glow in the dark and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, no. Okay. No. Anyhow, how prepared are you to stay in your home? How long can you stay in your home without needing assistance from someone else? Right? How much medication, if you have to have medication, how much do you have? How long will it last you? So here's an assignment for you. I want you to make a list of necessities. I ain't talking about Twinkies, okay? And so that is not a necessity. We ain't talking about Doritos, all right? I'm talking about how much food do you have? How prepared are you to stay where you're at? The next thing is, if you have to stay where you're at, because they're talking about our infrastructure being hit. Now, they've been saying this for a while, but I got a sneaky suspicion. They're going to wait until after this swearing in ceremony next week. And then all hell's going to break loose over the next 4 years. I'm just saying, this is what I really think is going to happen because it got too quiet too quickly. We heard the whole thing last time about, oh, we believe in the peaceful transition of power. And then they unleashed Antifa on our society. Okay, so, I don't want to hear the whole thing about peaceful transition of power. We already know what that's about. If you want a peaceful transition of power, how come you're not letting justice take its place? Why is that? Why has 8,000 people have to be pardoned? Pardoned from what? You don't need a pardon if you ain't done nothing wrong. So that's how corrupt this government is. But anyway, I digress from that one. How long can you stay in your house and not go out and sustain yourself? And if you do have stuff, right? If you do, you say, well, I got a box of Cheerios or I got some bologna, a little worse, whatever all else. I got chicken, got some fish. Okay. The stuff that you need to cook if your electricity goes out. Because this has happened just with storms, okay? This isn't necessarily something that happened because there was chaos going on in the streets, although that has happened before. But also, if you remember, about 2 or 3 years ago, when Texas had those really bad storms, and they were out of power for some people were out of power for 3 weeks, almost a month. No power, right? And if you were in an apartment or something that was heated by electric, you were not in a very comfortable place. So here's the question. You can layer up with clothes and try to keep yourself warm, right? There's things that you can do to keep yourself warm, even if your house gets down to 50 degrees or 40 degrees. There are things that you can do to keep yourself warm. But if you have to cook and you need hot food, what is your go-to? What's your second thing? What's your backup, right, for that? So just write that down. All right, if I have electricity, and that's how, I have an electric stove, how am I going to cook my food if I have no power, right? What you gonna do? So there's that. If you have gas, you see what's happening in California? They got gas lines exploding. Okay, so what happens if there's some kind of a gas explosion somewhere near you, and the gas company says we're going to shut the gas off to keep from any more explosions from happening till we can fix this repair? How long can you go without gas to cook your food? What's your backup for that? You need to have that. See, this is not fear mongering. This is common sense. When you see this craziness going on around you, don't think it can't happen to you. It's better to be safe than to be sorry. All right. So failing to prepare is preparing to fail. That's all I can say about that. Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. You guys, please give it a thumbs up. It'll help keep our video in the forefront so that people can find it more easily. Your medication, right? Now, I told you guys a few years back that I started transitioning off all of these crazy meds that they had me on. And I transitioned over to natural herbal remedies and stuff like that. So that's going fine. And I have backups for that, right? I know how to make my own capsules. I know what the dose is in them and all that. So, because I'm not going to wait until it hits my doorstep and then I'm scrambling. I'm trying to get to the store to get toilet paper because the world lost its mind for craziness. What in the world? How you run out of toilet paper in the first place? That's what I'd like to know. But anyhow, don't tell me. But anyway, so there's that. Don't run out of toilet paper. And if you do run out of toilet paper, there's a backup for that too. There's a backup for that. You want to know what that is? Yeah, call me. Anyway, there's things you can do. There's a lady, I saw a video a few years ago. Now, I'm not saying do this. I'm not saying I would do it, okay? But this is what she does. She stopped using toilet paper a long time ago. And what she does is she has, okay, I don't even know how. All right, I ain't gonna get gross. She uses cotton cloths, right? That I guess she buys these cloths and she cuts them up. She has them in a stack in her bathroom. That's what they use, right? And so somebody asked her, well, what about if you had to do something more than just urinate? Well, she treats that like she would a diaper. She said, she dunks it in the toilet and then it goes into a bucket with some bleach water, and that's where it stays until she washes it, right? And I'm thinking, okay. I mean, if you want to go all the way back to the caveman, that's a little bit more advanced than the caveman because I think they were using leaves if they were using anything at all. But anyhow, whatever. There is an alternative. But to keep from having to use an alternative, just go get it now while it's on the shelf. Don't wait until oops, you're in there and then you go reach for it and it's like, honey, where's the toilet paper? And then he's looking and can't find it, or you're out. That is not a good place to be. So just get what you need now. The other thing is, I had a friend of mine. We had a storm. This was a few years back. We had a storm. She had, I want to say like four deep freezers that were full of food. Four deep freezers. I don't know why she needed four deep freezers, but she clearly didn't think that one through because guess what? We had a storm. Her power went out. She had no way to keep her food from thawing out. No way. And this was in the summer. Her and her husband had to put tarps outside and take all that meat out and lay it out on the tarps. Otherwise, it just would have been stinking. I think she had a deep freezer in her house, in her kitchen. And then I think she had one outside and two in her garage. There was no power. There was no power. So you can't really over prepare, but you can under prepare for your preparation. You understand what I'm saying? In other words, she didn't have a backup for if she lost power. So it's got, we're so used to having all these amenities and stuff that we take for granted that it's always going to be there. We take for granted it's always going to be there. Some people would lose their minds if their power went out and they suddenly can't get on the internet, or if the phone lines went down, or something happened with the satellites and the cell phone, the towers aren't working or whatever, and they can't get on their phone, or they can't. What's your backup for that? Do you have a backup? You have a backup? What if you can't get online, or you can't get on your Kindle, or whatever it is you do to read? Do you have backups for that? Because I got a library. Okay, so I'm just saying, you got to have backups for your backups, folks. I'm saying don't depend on your utility company. They are at the mercy of whatever security measures they have in place, right? The banks are getting hacked. The Department of Treasury got hacked the other day. Can you believe that? Department of, yeah, by Chinese hackers, hacked the Department of Treasury. Now, I can't help but think that the government is complicit in this because they're the ones that opened the floodgates and let all this stuff happen, right? They're the ones that did this. They're the ones that reversed all of these laws that were put in place, or executive orders that were put in place by the last administration to help protect this country from this kind of stuff. And then they start name calling, oh, you're a racist because you don't want people to come in illegally. I mean, yeah, get your head around that logic. But anyhow, they're the one, they did this. They did this to you. Okay, they did this to you. All right, your government did this to you. Let that hit you. All right. So now, if you know what the government is capable of doing, you better get to thinking about how you and your family can better take care of yourselves without the help of the government. Because what's getting ready to come into office, if it makes it next Monday, that's a temporary job, folks. It's not a permanent job. It's not a permanent job. And we've had presidents that didn't make it. Abraham Lincoln, different ones just didn't complete their term for whatever reason. Okay. Things can change on a dime. You have got to be in a place where you can take better care of yourself and your family without the help of the government. I told people 2 years ago, I said, I was talking to a group of people in a night session, and I said, the store closures are going to start. This was like in November of 22 or 2023, November of 23. I said, there's going to be a lot of stores closing. And I said, you need to tell your family members that are working for these stores, these big box stores, these real retailers, that the next check that they get, they better treat it like it's their last one. Even if it's not, just treat it like it's your last one. Okay, just start living like that. So that when you lose your job, not if, when you lose your job, you will have something to fall back on. And sure as I'm sitting here, these stores started shutting down and people started losing their jobs. And not just the stores, but the banks. And then there was this whole big contagion with the banks that went on, where banks were closing and bigger banks were swallowing up the littler banks and people were losing their jobs and people are still losing their jobs. Macy is closing, I don't know how many stores. Walmart is closing stores. I mean, these people are suffering. And you know what the ironic thing is? A lot of these companies were all on board with being woke and being stupid because somehow they thought the government was going to protect them from the fallout that was going to come from their folly. And guess what? Government doesn't care about them neither. And they're finding it out. They're having to file bankruptcy and all. Why? How you bankrupt when you made all that money during COVID? Everybody had to close except Walmart and these big Home Depot, all these big box stores. And guess what? It came back to bite them in the butt because they broke now. You know why? Because people don't have money. This is where it gets dangerous when you start losing respect or appreciation for the human element. None of these entities would exist if it wasn't for people. You understand that? People is what make the world go round. People is why societies are societies, because of people. Businesses thrive because of people. Because of people. And so when you mistreat people and you tell them, if you don't want to take this experimental drug, I'm going to fire you. Right? Or you're going to get laid off indefinitely. Or you'll never be able to work in this industry ever again because we're going to put a black mark on your file. And then you find out that you don't have the manpower that you needed to run your business because you laid off all these people by the thousands because they wouldn't jump to the crack of your whip. And now, not only did you do it, but everybody that you was connected to in distribution and manufacturing, they all had the same idea. Yeah, that's right. We're all going to jump on the progressive train and we're going to do this. How stupid was that? How stupid was that? Because now everybody did this, not very short-sighted, not looking into the distant, understanding that if you lay all these people off, they did it with the military too. You lay all these people off. Who's watching the store? Who's distributing the goods? Who's doing the services? Who's doing all this stuff when you laid all these people off because you were so busy racking in the green that you didn't understand that it was the people that was making the business go round? Well, welcome to the world of idiocy because you did it to yourself. But anyhow, y'all, anyway, I'm just saying. How prepared are you? How much food do you have in your house? Do you know how to prepare your food long term? Do you know how to store it long term? Do you know how to do these things? Um, I had my daughter was asking me today. Well, she's asked me for several years about um, writing down, making a recipe book. If you came up like me, my mother did not cook by recipe. She cooked by inspiration. And if you wasn't in the kitchen watching her, it just sucked to be you. You wasn't gonna know how to do it because she wasn't writing. She ain't writing nothing down. I never saw my mother write anything down. I just had to hang out in the kitchen and see what she was doing. That's still there is no substitute for practice and technique. There's no substitute. So even if let's say I wrote something down, I still need to know how to put it together, in what order to do it, and all this kind of stuff. When you have an opportunity to show someone younger than you how to do what you do, you need to do that. That's part of your legacy. You need to be able to pass things on. My granddaughter sent me a gift. It was my birthday the other day, and she sent me a gift. And she called me this morning and said, "Your package is on your front porch." So I guess she has tracking, and she saw it had been delivered. So I went out there and got it. And it's a book that says, "Grandmother, tell me your story." And on the inside is like, when were you born? When did you take your first step? Oh, thank you. Thank you, Beverly. When did you take your first steps and all this kind of stuff? And I was like, wow. Now, I've seen journals before and I've seen diaries before, but I've never seen a book called Grandma, Tell Me Your Story, and then you got all this stuff you fill in the book. So I thought, first of all, that's one of the most special things I'd ever received from anyone. I'd never seen anything like that. And second of all, it really makes you reflect on your life. And it's important to us. It's important to some of our family members. Not all of us have close families. And I get that. I understand that. But you still have a story, right? I mean, this is a story right here. Just living for the last 4 years. There's a story for you right there. What have you been through in the last 4 years? There's always somebody you can tell your story to that can learn from your experiences, right? So when I come on here and I'm saying things like, how much food do you have? And do you know how to prepare it for long term and all that? It's because I have a story. Okay. It's because I never saw my mother do that. But my mother, who passed away in 2007, did not live through times like this. Now that ain't to say they didn't live through hard times. I used to hear my uncle say, well, if we were poor, we didn't know it because everybody around us was the same, right? So maybe, I don't know. Some people might not feel like that they're in lack because they feel rich, right? Doesn't mean you got food in your cabinet. I'm just saying. But anyhow, you need to learn how to do some things, for yourself. Learn how to preserve your food, right? There's so many different methods. You can pressure can, you can water bath, you can dehydrate. You can buy stuff that's pressure canned, water bathed, or dehydrated if you have the money to do it. It's just cheaper to do it yourself. But there's things that you can do to prepare for hard times. So just keep in mind, the price of food is going to be ridiculous. Okay. It's just, and it's going to be scarce. And there's some things that are going to go away that aren't going to come back. But there's things that you can do to mitigate that. For example, I have been talking for the last couple of days about making some hot cocoa mix, right? And I thought, I need to look that up. So I did. It's real simple. You take some pure cocoa, you take some powdered whole milk, and you take whatever powdered sweetener, whether it's sugar or stevia or whatever it is you want to put in it, mix it up, put it in a jar, and seal it up. And then whenever you want a cup of hot cocoa, you just pour some hot water in it. Everything's all together. It's cheaper than buying a box of Swiss Miss. Okay, I'm just saying there's things you can do. So you can have the same thing and do it yourself, and it comes out to be a lot less expensive than if you're buying it already prepared and you don't know what kind of preservatives they put in it or stabilizers they put in it or anti-caking agents they put in it. And listen, if it stops stuff from clogging up in the package, what's it doing in your intestine? I just something to think about. But anyway, look, just keep in mind that you're not dealing in a world now that is the world that you came up in. It's just not, right? Things are different. People are desperate. The homeless situation is just out of control. The mental illness that's running rampant in our in our streets is just, it's sad. And their idea of dealing with the homeless situation is just moving to different camps from place to place. That's their idea of dealing with it. And it's all about appearance. If they have dignitaries coming into their state or, whatever, they don't want nobody to see that. So they make sure they move the homeless encampments to a different part of the city where the dignitaries aren't going to come and see any of that, right? We have stuff going on, folks, and the government is not going to take care of you. Now, I understand there's a new administration coming in, but let me tell you something. This man is surrounded by sharks, all right? He was surrounded by sharks the first time. Now he's surrounded by sharks and serpents, slippery individuals that I got questions about. Some of them being part of his cabinet just because of what their position was on certain issues when they were running for president, right? The first term that he was in. And I thought to myself, now I got a problem with this guy. This guy was for open borders. Why in the world is he looking at him to be Secretary of State? I got a problem with stuff like that. I'm looking. So here's the thing. There's a new administration coming. He ain't perfect. He's got blind spots. All right. I know it. A whole lot of other folks know it. He knows it. He just don't know. See, the problem with being blind is, you don't know what you're missing. You don't know what it is you're missing. And sometimes there's things you just don't see because you have a blind spot. And you have to be able to depend on God or some other person to tell you that's a wall, don't walk in that direction. You're gonna knock yourself out, or you're gonna hit your head, or you're gonna hurt yourself. And then if you have people that are very type A personality, they ain't gonna listen to you, right? Because they think they know. they ain't gonna listen to you unless they absolutely trust you. And if I were him, I wouldn't be trusting a whole lot of nobodies, right? My family, maybe, and he might not be able to trust some of them. But anyhow, I'm just saying, this man is not the great white hope. He ain't going to fix all the problems in this country. He can't do it because he's not all powerful, right? We have a Congress and a Senate that bills and laws and stuff have to go through. Congress makes laws, but it still has to go through both houses and all this. And when you got people in there that are so asinine as to blame this man for the fires that are going on in California, and he's a civilian. He's a civilian. He hasn't even sworn in yet, and they're blaming him for the fires. I mean, it's like, you do know he's been a civilian for the last 4 years. How is it that he is responsible for the fires when he was the one, when he was in office, said, y'all need to clean up all this dead wood and stuff that's laying around? That place is a tinderbox. And where's the water? How's that his fault? I mean, so they're blaming him for stuff that Gavin Newsom is responsible for, but that's what they do. They don't take responsibility for anything. is either your fault or it's the last administration's fault, even though he's a civilian, but whatever. I'm just saying, you ought to be able to look and see what happened in Tennessee and Georgia and Virginia and these other places and realize they ain't coming to help you. And our economy is in such ragtag shape till there's not a lot this man can do. There's a lot he can do. Let me rephrase that. There's a lot he can do, but there may not be a lot that can be immediately fixed because it's not just us. A lot of this stuff has damaged our relationship with other countries. Trade, we having trade wars right now. He's talking about tariffs. And, for people that are, you may have invested in gold or silver, or you're a stacker or you're a collector. There's talk about him maybe putting tariffs on the countries that we buy gold or silver from. Well, that's a double-edged sword, and I'll tell you why. If he puts tariffs on the gold and silver that's coming in, it'd be so expensive to bring it into the country till the countries that would have brought it in say, forget it. We're not paying those kind of taxes to ship stuff into your country. Well, then it'll make it hard to come by. Here's the other part of the sword. The people that already have it, the value will skyrocket because you can't get it anymore, right? So that's something else you may want to look at. If you can't, if the internet goes down, what other source of income do you have? See, this whole digital thing, I ain't trying to be an old fuddy-duddy, but if you don't hold it, folks, you don't own it. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. They can turn you off at the flip of a switch. That's all it takes. What if somebody can hack the U.S. Treasury? You think they can't get to your bank account? Really? Okay. So what happens if they hit your bank? It has happened. Okay. It has absolutely happened where they have hacked into these banks and people woke up the next day with a zero with a Z balance in their account. And they didn't take the money out. Somebody did, but it wasn't them. So what if they didn't have any money at home? No cash at home, no tradable asset, no nothing. All they had was their digital thing and their little, tap their card and all this kind of mess. What happens when that gets turned off? So I'm just asking you, sit back, have a nice long think about this and start writing down, what is it that I absolutely have to have at my disposal if everything goes belly up for a week or two or a month or two? How much cash do I need to have on hand if I just have to get to the store to get something? And I can't use my credit card because, hey, the credit card company got hacked and they're offline. But I need milk or I need whatever it is you need, right? And here you go. The store can't take your credit card because they got hacked or their power is out. So they can only take cash, right? And what about these places who say, oh, I'm sorry, we don't take cash anymore? Yeah, well, it sucks to be them. You know what I mean? I mean, seriously. Don't fall for that. Don't ever go completely digital. Just don't do it. It's too vulnerable. We don't have enough security in place. We do not have enough cybersecurity in place. We don't. So don't go completely digital thinking it's the next great thing because it's wide open for hacking. Wide open, right? This administration hasn't done anything to protect this country. And I'm saying anything at all. They let everything go to crap, right down to the military. But that's what you do when you want to overthrow a nation. Anyway. All right. So much for me blabbing. Thank you guys for coming on at the last minute. Boy, y'all was quiet in the chat tonight. Y'all was that because of me? I'm reading y'all stuff. Yeah, Beverly said, imagine washing clothes by hand. I did that. When I came up, we didn't have a washing machine at first. And then the first one we got was one of those ringer, yeah, I guess that's what you call it, the ringer thingy, where the washing machine did what it did, but then it had those two wooden log like things, and you put your clothes through, and it would press the water out. And then we had a clothesline. I still have a clothesline. Okay, I'm just saying we had a clothesline, but we had a basement where we had a clothesline strung up all the way through the basement, and we would wash our clothes, put them through the wringer, and then hang them up on the clothesline, or we'd hang them outside on the clothesline. I have that here. Do you know why? Because we're subject to tornadoes and stuff where the power can go out. It doesn't mean I can't wash my clothes. I can still wash my clothes, but I can't dry them because my dryer is electric. So you can wash your clothes by hand, and then you can rinse them by hand, and then you hang them up on your clothesline. I have a clothesline. It's not the typical clothesline. It looks like it's a pole, and it's like an octagon, right? And it's got all these ropes, and I've got clothespins, and we use it sometimes just to keep ourselves in practice. We're doing that kind of stuff, especially in the summer, and to cut down on energy. We'll just wash our clothes, and then we'll hang them up out in the backyard on the clothesline. There you go. So yeah, that's a thing. Beverly said, yes, so did we. That's the good old days. The clothes smelled cleaner. Yeah, they did. Smelled fresher. So anyway, just, practice doing stuff like that. Listen, there are like countless videos you can watch on how to pressure can your food, how to preserve. Please look into this stuff. It's not too late, okay? As long as the stores are open, you can get stuff. You're going to pay more. I told y'all, I told y'all, I told you. I said, whatever you paid this month is going to be more next month. And that's how it's been happening. But go online or look back at some of my videos. Go to the other channel, the Acristopats, right? That's what it's called, the Acristopats. And I think I left the link in the description on this channel. But you guys, listen, you have to look into taking care of yourself. Don't depend on the government. Don't depend on your state. What happens if they cut off your Social Security if you get that? Or for some reason, the bank where your retirement check is issued from gets hacked. How much money do you have? How can you survive? How can you maintain yourself until that crisis is over? So just think about that. Everybody's situation is different, right? Everybody's situation is different. Some people might be $100 away from an absolute catastrophe. Some other people might be $350,000 away from a catastrophe. It might take them that long, to get through a catastrophe. I have a friend of mine that just had 3 deaths in her family in the last year. It's horrific. Her husband, her sister, and then her daughter. Just boom, 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 just like that. That ain't cheap, okay? So things happen, and we have to prepare as best we can for things that we absolutely can't control. We can't control that this government is crazy. We can't control that. But we can control, to a great degree, how it affects us and our family, right? Or our friends. So just keep that in mind. That's your homework assignment. Just sit down, get quiet, write down things I must have during a crisis, right? And ask yourself, okay, I have that. How long would I need that? Just go back and listen to this video again. And then, of course, you can always contact me. My email address is in the description box. You can contact me on AOL and ask me whatever questions you want to ask me. If it's something I can help you with, I'd be happy to do that. I can advise you as far as I could advise you. If I don't know, I'll tell you that. But I always get back to you, to whoever contacts me. I always get back to you because I'm always checking every day to see if someone wrote me or asked me a question. And it's not a problem for me. It's not, I don't find it a bother or anything like that. Some of you have called, and all that. And I appreciate that. So I just want to help as many people as I can. And I know I can't help everybody, but I can help who I can help. And, if you don't think anything I say or do helps you, then you're on the wrong channel. That's all. Just go find some unicorns and rainbows or whatever all else. Anyway, I love you guys. I appreciate you being here. Happy New Year to you. I will see you the next time I come on. I hope you had a good Christmas and a good New Year celebration. Even if it was quiet, celebrate quiet. Trust me. And I will see you guys the next time I come on. God bless you. Take care and stay safe out